Does it feel like your mind is just a swirling vortex and it's really hard to sort things out? And as a result, you get overwhelmed? Well, stay tuned and see what you can do about that. Hi, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD. And it's not unusual for people with ADD to feel overwhelmed a lot of the time. You might feel like you're in one of those game show cash tubes where the money's swirling about and you're trying to grab on. And sometimes you feel overwhelmed. More often than not, that may be the case when you feel like you have too much on your plate. And ADD brains have a different wiring. There is now and there is not now. And that's one of the primary problems with executive functioning and the challenges that lead people to feeling overwhelmed. It's hard to keep track of all of those things that aren't exactly right in front of you. There are some things you can do to deal with that feeling of being overwhelmed by your ADD symptoms. The first thing is accept that you have a different brain. This is something inherent in ADD wiring, and here's where coaching comes into play. Coaching can help you overcome specific problems. And that's one of the reasons why I have this coaching channel. But you can find professional coaches that specialize in ADD. So coaching is probably the single best way to overcome specific problems that lead you to being overwhelmed. Things are rarely solved by medications. Medications may be a part of the equation for you. And if you haven't considered that, it's probably time to, at least to try them out. You owe that to yourself. And if you are on medications, talk to your provider. See if they're adjusted as well as they might be, and see if they really meet all of the time requirements you have in that duration of response. One of the things I come back to over and over is not relying on my memory. I use systems instead of memories, and I'll link to a specific video on this. My memory isn't great, except for really trivial things. I'm really good at remembering those, and I bet you are too. Or I really remember things that are really, really interesting, and I bet that's not so different from you either. But when it comes to other things like remembering to pick up prescriptions or mail something in or make an appointment that I've needed to make, I'm not so good at that. So what I do is I rely on systems. These are reminders that help keep it right in front of me. Another issue is being aware of your self-talk. What do you say about yourself and about your experience? Is it overwhelmingly negative? The difficulty with negative self-talk is it tends to totally color your world, and it exacerbates your stress. Let me give you an example. Say you have something really, really stressful, and your self-talk revolves around, this is a problem that will never go away, as opposed to, this is a problem I can overcome. I can work on a solution. It is a no-brainer to see that that negative perspective of this enduring problem is going to make your perspective of that worse. Be aware that you may have some baggage left over from your ADD and your childhood. Unpack that baggage by getting yourself into some therapy. A good therapist can help you make a lot of headway on these particular kinds of problems. Again, this is G.H. Glade for Coaching ADD, and I put these videos out in the world to help you in terms of making your life better. And if this has been helpful for you, add some comments below, share it with others, and thump that like button. So let's move on. What if what we feel may not be real? I ask you to ask these 3 questions because a lot of times we beat ourselves up really, really easily. The first one, is that belief accurate? I.e., do you have any empirical information that shows that belief is at all accurate? The second question, do other people treat you in a way that suggests the reality of that situation? Do people treat you like you're incompetent? Do they give you just, softball assignments because they know that's what you can do? Or are you being challenged like everyone else? And again, come back to, is there any empirical evidence that you're not being successful getting things done? What to do about this? Well, the best way to do this is lean into it and challenge it when it comes up. That's the only way you're going to break up these sorts of thoughts. And this is another really good use for a therapist. Look at transitions. Transitions are often really tough for people, and I'm going to include my video on transitions at the end of this. Do you ever feel that you're the problem? Well, we need to take responsibility for our behavior. Sometimes this gets skewed. It's in line with that negative thinking. Dispute the sense that you're a problem when you don't find any evidence that that problem is really of your doing. Again, this comes back to working with a good therapist. They can help you make a lot of headway on this. Ask for help when you need it. Sometimes that is really, really hard. We have this notion that, by gosh, I've got to do it myself. And the reality is, we all have mentors. We all have people who have helped us through our life at various times when we've struggled. So it is really important to recognize when you need help and get that. I remember when I was really struggling with math in college, and I really felt isolated as a result. And then somebody suggested I go get a tutor. And I did. And it was marvelous. And that person explained things in ways I could understand. And it was just the help I needed to become successful in math. And that initial tutor really opened a door for me in terms of my own willingness to get help, but then my ability to help others. Most of all, take good care of yourself and how your brain works. Really successful people prioritize sleep. The old adage of we are what we eat is really true. But surprisingly, if we throw junk into our body, our brain doesn't work as well as it should. Eat a healthy diet, a protein skewed diet. Eat throughout the course of the day to keep your brain function at its very best. Meditation is really helpful, and mindfulness meditation is actually training in how to focus. Do you know that it's empirically shown that if you take 10 minutes to meditate before a test, you're actually going to do better on that test? Meditation is helpful from day to day. It really is a big plus when it comes to dealing with anxiety. The other thing is take one thing at a time. Our brain tends to squirrel, and we want to jump over to that other thing before we finish the other. And it's a bit of training and coaching to take one thing at a time. So this is GH Glade. Again, if this has been a helpful video, I want you to share it with others. And also, never hurts to thump that like button. Until next week, we'll catch you then. And thank you for sharing this time with me.